Hello, my dear students of the third prep. Today we will continue explaining curriculum of science for the third prep. At first we will come with Mr. محمود. Welcome, Mr.
Hello, hi, Mr. ازي حضرتك؟
In last episodes we study with our students the lessons 1 and lesson 2 of the unit 1.
Yes.
We study speed and we deal with the types of speed and unit speed, and also we explain for our students acceleration.
Yes.
If you want to make any notes about the two lessons.
Okay. Hello, dear students of third prep science for first term. We have just general review or يعني زي ما نقول كده just a little brief about lesson 1, lesson 2. We talk about speed, distance, time. Also we talk about acceleration and how can we differentiate between speed and acceleration at the same time. How can we deal with some problems, and how can we represent these relations between physical quantities as distance, time and speed in graph. We have 2 or 3 graphs about speed as a straight line passes through the origin point. We talk about uniform speed, and at the same time we have another graph that represents the non-uniform speed as a zigzag or curved line passes through the origin point, distance and time. And we have straight line parallel to the time axis as we talk about the body at rest or speed equal 0 in this case. We have another concept or another physical quantities as we talk about acceleration, and we know what is meant by acceleration as change in speed through time unit, يعني تغيير السرعة بمرور الزمن. And we talk about the types of acceleration as we have uniform and non-uniform acceleration, but here we have a relation between speed, time to calculate the acceleration. We have positive acceleration when the speed increases through time unit, and we have negative acceleration as the speed decreases through time unit. And we have another, our third graph of acceleration as we talk about straight line parallel to the time axis. Here we have acceleration equals 0 because the body moves with uniform speed. Okay.
Okay, Mister.
You have any? Yes.
When anybody move
yes.
without change in its speed.
Yes. As constant speed.
Yes. As
yes.
constant. Yeah,
yes.
The same meaning.
Yes.
Yes. Here the acceleration equal.
Acceleration equals 0.
0 because
yes.
there is no change in
the speed. Yes.
Because the meaning of acceleration, the change of speed per unit of time
per unit
or
of
per
time.
unit time.
Yes.
Here I want to explain for dear students
yes.
the difference between the graph represent speed and the graph represent acceleration.
Yes.
If we look at these two axes here, distance, the relation between distance and time.
Yes.
In the second graph, the relation between speed and time.
Yes.
Here, the relation distance and the time expressed for speed. While when we draw a graph represent S, what that means speed, and T time.
Yes.
Here we express for acceleration. So here, if you look at the graph and notice that the two axes, distance and the time, so here we express for speed with different type. If we move from the origin in straight line here, this is uniform speed.
Yes, miss.
If we move in a straight line here, this is uniform acceleration.
Yes.
But when the line it change or it takes the curve shape or zigzag shape, it expresses for non-uniform
speed or acceleration.
Non-uniform time.
Yes.
Yes. Mister, we will move to another lesson.
Yes.
That express for physical quantities.
Yes, physical
and
quantities.
We classified these physical quantities into two types.
Yes.
Yes.
So here we will talk about a new concept in our lessons as we have to know physical quantities. We studied before speed, distance, time, acceleration, and we know the measuring units of each one of them as speed, meter per second or kilometer per hour, distance, meter or kilometer, time, second or hour. At the same time, we calculate the measuring unit of acceleration as meter per second power 2 or meter per second squared. So here we deal with physical quantities. بنتعامل مع كميات فيزيائية زي ما بنسميها. So this lesson is called the physical quantities. We will know a new concept, مفهوم جديد about the physical quantities in our life. So let's go to start with this point in our lesson today as we talk about Unit 1, Lesson 3, Physical Quantities. Scalar and vector. How can we know what is meant by scalar and vector physical quantities? Here, firstly, we should know what is meant by physical quantities. Here we have the concept of physical quantities. يعني ايه physical quantities؟ معناها طبعا بالعربي كميات فيزيائية. But here we want to mention the definition of physical quantities as we see here. The meaning or the definition of physical quantities as we have here. Anything has or can be measured. أي حاجة أقدر أقيسها أو أوزنها is called physical quantities as mass كتلة, length الطول, time الوقت طبعا, speed السرعة, force القوة, energy الطاقة, temperature درجة الحرارة. All these points or physical. All these things are called physical quantities. Yes. Why these things are called physical quantities? Because they can be measured. نقدر نقيسها. For example, here we have, as we see, we have length can be measured and measuring unit, for example, here is watt, the length measuring physical quantities, and its measuring unit is meter, for example. At the same time, we have here another concept, or as we talk about mass, and its measuring unit is what? Is kilogram. So we can know what is meant by physical quantities as anything can be measured. Anything can be measured is called what here? In this case is called physical quantities. So now we know what is meant by physical quantities. As Mr. Muhammad said before, what is meant by physical quantities and the types of physical quantities. We have two main types of physical quantities as you see here in front of you. We have scalar physical quantities and you have another type is called vector physical quantities, and you will study these quantities again in physics in first secondary. هتاخدوها تاني في الفيزياء أو في الفيزيكس في أولى ثانوي. What is meant by scalar physical quantities? يعني إيه scalar physical quantities? Scalar physical quantities or quantity identified by magnitude only. Some students will ask me here what is meant by magnitude. Magnitude معناها إيه؟ Magnitude, which means number,
value
أو value,
yes.
number with measuring unit. يعني if we say 5 kilogram, we talk about magnitude of mass.
Mass, yes.
And if we say, for example,
10 meters.
10 meters.
Yes.
Yes, 10 meters here. In this case, we talk about length or distance. So we have magnitude. يبقى الماgnitude كلمة magnitude, which means what? معناها
numerical value or value.
value. عشان في ناس يقول magnitude اللي هي تعتبر القيمة بتاعت الحاجة. يبقى magnitude here, which means value, which means number with measuring unit. Sometimes we represent or we express any physical quantities, especially scalar physical quantities, by magnitude only. We need to identify, for example, the distance between me and this or this camera. Distance about 3 meters. So we identify, بنعرف the distance here by 3 meters. We have no other concept or another information. مش محتاجين معلومة تانية. But in other cases we need to identify the physical quantities by magnitude and direction. يعني محتاجين نعرفها بالقيمة أو value and its direction, and these physical quantities are called what in this case are called the vector physical quantities.
So in a simple meaning, we identify a scalar and vector with the same definition.
With the same
in
definition.
Scalar, we said that it is the physical quantity that need only its magnitude,
Yes.
or its value,
Yes.
or numerical number.
Numerical number, yes.
If we ask it about the time,
Yes.
as examples, we said what? 5 o'clock.
5
We don't need to any else information.
Or extra information like direction, for
Yes,
example. Yes.
Yes. But if we are
Yes.
asked about some other physical quantities, we need its magnitude and its direction.
Direction, yes.
So the physical quantity that need its magnitude only, it is called a
Scalar physical quantities,
quantity.
yes.
If we want to express for any physical quantity by knowing its magnitude and its direction in the same time,
Yes.
we say that it is vector
Physical
quantity. This
quantity.
is the difference between them. If we are asked to compare between them, we give the same definition, the definition for each item and examples.
Yes.
So this is the table that make in
Difference
or
between
when we are asked about
Yes.
the physical quantities,
And the
scalar
physical
or
quantities.
vector quantities.
Yes.
Yes, Mr.
So here we should mention the definition of each one of them, as Mr. Muhammad said before. We mention the difference between physical quantities as a scalar and vector physical quantities by only one extra word. We have magnitude only in the scalar physical quantities, and we have magnitude and direction in vector physical quantities. Like here, we have some examples about the scalar physical quantities
Yes.
that identify by magnitude only, as we see here. Number one, المونيتور لو سمحتوا هنا. عندي example زي like for example mass, length, speed, time, and energy. These physical quantities are called what here? Are called scalar physical quantity. We need just to say, for example here, mass as 3 kilograms. Length, we can say only here as 4 meters. Here about speed, we can say 5 kilometers per hour.
Yes.
About time, we can say 3 seconds. About energy, here we can say here, for example, يعني, like we studied before in first primary stage, energy like mechanical energy or kinetic energy or potential energy, we can say, for example, 1 joule.
Yes.
Okay, so now we know physical quantities identify only by what? By magnitude, like you, as you see here, here, and here. Each one of them by number, and beside this number we have only measuring unit. So we identify, يعني لما أقول 4 meters, we know we talk about length. If we say 10 kilograms, we talk about mass, and so on.
Yes. But in other items, we define vector quantities. And we said that we will need 2 things. We will need its value,
Yes.
or numerical value,
Yes.
or its magnitude,
Yes.
and we need also direction.
Direction, yes.
In our curriculum,
Beside it.
there are 2 words.
Yes.
We can use them to identify or to differentiate between a scalar,
Scalar and
physical,
vector.
and the vector.
Yes.
This is called distance and displacement.
Distance and displacement.
Yes.
So here we need an extra information
Yes.
to identify vector physical quantities. As we know here, we have magnitude and we have direction.
Yes.
So we have an extra information to identify. So here, if I want to move from this point toward Mr. Muhammad, I will move in this direction. مش هينفع I can't passes through the table. مش هتحرك من جوه التيبل. Normally I will move in this direction. هتحرك كده.
Yes.
So now I will calculate distance between me and Mr. Muhammad as, for example, 3 meters like that in this curved line here. But if we want to identify or to measure displacement in first prep, we studied before في أولى إعدادي distance and displacement, and we can't differentiate sometimes between them.
Yes.
And we have no to differentiate between them. But in third prep and in any other stage, we will differentiate from now between distance and displacement. So displacement between me and Mr. Muhammad about 1.5 meter, but distance here about 3 meters. So displacement considered as vector physical quantity. So what is meant by vector physical quantity? ازاي نقدر نعرف يعني ايه vector physical quantity from this definition? As we see here, زي ما احنا شايفين قدامنا هنا, vector physical quantities. Now we have physical quantity identified by magnitude and what? And direction. يعني بعرفها بحاجتين, by two information. As here we have magnitude, and we know what is meant by magnitude. Magnitude as number with measuring unit. And direction طبعا اللي هو الاتجاه. يعني لازم أعرف, we should know the direction besides the magnitude. As we have many examples represent the vector physical quantities. As you see here, dear students, for example, number 1 as acceleration, and we studied before what is meant by acceleration. Here we have force, للقوة. Here we have velocity, and some students we can say now velocity is like distance, as measuring unit like distance, but velocity identified by magnitude and direction at the same time as displacement. Displacement not like or has two information to identify displacement as magnitude and direction, not like a distance. So for example here, if we have to identify acceleration, we can say, for example, 5 meter per second power 2 left, يعني ماشي ناحية الشمال with this acceleration. So we identify by magnitude here and direction. And other word here, force, for example here, we can say مثلا يعني 3 Newton. Okay? 3 Newton south, جنوبا. Velocity, we can say 4 meter per second right, يعني يمينا, يعني ناحية اليمين. Displacement, we can say 3 kilometers, for example, north, شمالا.
Yes.
So here in these physical quantities, we identify by magnitude, and at the same time we identify by direction, magnitude and direction, as you see in all physical quantities. So if we have give reason for acceleration is called vector physical quantity, here we have to mention by the definition of not definition of acceleration.
Yes.
We will define what here? We will define vector physical quantity, any one of them, because they identify by number 1 magnitude, number 2 and direction.
By drawing, Mr. Here we can explain or simplify this information.
Yes.
If we look at a car moving or body moving here from point A to point B.
Yes, mister.
Here, if a moving car or moving body moves from A to B in north.
Yes, mister.
And cut 20 meters.
Yes.
Here we will neglect time.
Yes.
And from B in the direction to west to C,
Yes.
point C, and
Yes.
cut 35 meters.
Yes.
And from north to south, and cut here 20 meters.
Yes, Mr.
So by this drawing we can explain the difference between distance and displacement.
Yes.
Here body start with A and reach to D or finish at D.
Yes.
If we are asked about distance, so it is the actual spaces or
Length.
that the body cut from point A to point D.
Yes.
So if we want to calculate distance here, we say 20 plus 35 plus 20
Yes.
to calculate distance.
Distance from A to B to C to D.
Yes. Here we need the value only.
Yes.
The distance cut by this car or body moving.
75 meters.
75. Excellent, Mr. 75 meters.
Yes.
But if we are asked about the displacement,
Yes.
displacement is the shortest line between the starting point and ending point.
Ending point, yes.
Start from A and end with D.
Yes.
So shortest straight line اللي احنا بنقول عليها أقصر خط مستقيم between the starting point and the final or the end point.
Yes.
Here this express for what? Express for displacement.
And in
So
this
here
case,
it's equal 35
yes.
meter. So if we express for displacement, we said that it is 35 meter.
Yes.
This is not complete definition for displacement.
Yes.
Here we express for distance only from point A to point D.
Yes.
So we said that in the direction of the
A, D.
yes. So we need the arrow
Yes.
to explain or to identify the displacement.
Yes.
So when we make a comparison between distance and the displacement, we said distance is actual path or an actual distance or
Actual length. Yes.
from a starting point to the end
Ending
point.
point, yes.
We don't need direction. But if we express for displacement, we express by using the shortest straight line
Between the 2 points.
a starting point and the end
Ending
point.
point.
So here we said 35 in the north, in the east, in west. So we need the direction. This is called the vector quantity. And as Mr. Muhammad said here, when we express for speed and velocity,
Yes.
speed means the distance over time. Distance over time.
Yes.
This is a scalar quantity.
It's scalar quantity, yes.
But if we talk about velocity, velocity means displacement over
time. Yes.
And displacement is vector quantity. So
Yes.
velocity is vector quantity. This is the difference between also speed and velocity.
Okay.
Is there any item, Mr.?
Yes, here
talk
we
about
will
it?
just to review these points, as we have to know what is meant by distance. Distance is the actual length between the 2 points. المسافة الواقعية between the 2 points. ما بين نقطتين. يعني كل اللي أنا همشي any centimeter or any length I will cover, it will calculate. أي حاجة أنا همشيها هحسبها from this point to this point to this point until I return back to my bed, لغاية لما أرجع لسريري بالليل. يعني for example, if you go to school, then club, then to your grandfather مثلا, then you return back to your home at night, you have many distances, many length you covered. In this case, we calculate the actual length between the starting point and the ending point.
Yes.
But in the same case, if we want to calculate the displacement, your displacement equals 0. How come? Anybody at night, its or his or her displacement equals 0. How come? Because your starting point is your bed and your ending point your bed. يعني أنا هقوم من سريري الصبح وهرجع لسريري بالليل.
ما عملناش displacement خالص.
يبقى displacement equals 0, yes, because the starting point is your bed and the ending point in this case is your bed. So displacement, what is meant by displacement is the shortest, هي أقصر مسافة, shortest straight line between the starting point and the ending point. If your starting point is your ending point, so in this case only your displacement equals 0. Displacement as you move with eraser, أكاني ماشي بأستيكة. Any returning back is out. أي حاجة برجعها لورا كأني ما بحسبهاش. But in distance, if you go forward and then you return backward, you will calculate, because we talk about the actual length between 2 points. And as here you see on the monitor here, the main difference between distance and displacement as a definition, we can say here distance as actual length between 2 points, and here we can talk about displacement here as displacement is the shortest straight line between 2 points, as here we have a graph about distance and displacement. If I will move here from point A, as you see here, point A to point أنا هتحرك من point A ل point B. So distance here, as you see here, distance is the actual length between the 2 points, any place. But if we want to talk about the displacement, we will take a shorter straight line between the starting point and the ending point. So now we can differentiate between distance and displacement. All of them have the same measuring unit, distance or displacement, meter or kilometer, but they have many difference between them, as the great or big difference here is if we talk about distance and displacement, distance is a scalar and displacement is vector.
Yes, Mr. There is another example to explain the displacement and when the displacement equals 0.
Yes.
In some exams, students are given this circle.
Yes, mister.
And its radius 5 centimeters.
Yes.
Yes, this is the radius.
Yes.
And this is diameter.
Yes.
Yes, and the diameter equal
10
to
meters.
radius. Yes, 2r. So,
Yes.
calculate the displacement here. If the body move from A to B.
Displacement is the shortest straight line.
Yes, so here the shortest straight line is the straight line between A and B.
Yes.
This
radius.
is called diameter.
Oh, diameter, yes.
To radius or diameter.
Yes, diameter.
So, in some exams given the radius,
Yes.
the students will change the radius
Multiply
and
with
calculate
2.
diameter.
Yes.
So it's 10 centimeters.
Yes.
And we will indicate the direction from A to B,
Yes.
in the east or west as the drawing.
Yes.
But if the body moves from A and has a complete circle and reach to A,
تمام.
the body move and the
From A
circumference
and
of the circle and
yes.
return back to A. Start from A and end at A.
Yes.
Has a complete circle.
Yes.
So here the displacement equal 0
Yes. Because
because
body,
the starting point A and the ending point A.
the ending point.
So here there is no distance between the starting point and ending point.
Yes.
So here the displacement equals 0 if the moving car or moving body has a complete circle.
Or return back at the,
Or return
the
back
same
to
starting
its
point.
starting point.
Yes.
So when the starting point or ending point applied on the starting point, there is here displacement is equal 0.
Yes.
Because this is no distance.
Yes.
As you said, if we come out from bed and return back
Yes,
to bed.
yes. Also, we have anybody has or have in this case 0 displacement. But if we return back for other quantity, we just make subtraction between the two quantities, and in this case we can calculate the displacement. And in some examples we will explain how can we differentiate by mathematical relations between distance and displacement, as Mr. Muhammad mentioned before. Here we have just main points, 2 main points, as we have here talk about speed. As we studied before, speed is distance covered, as we see here, distance covered through time units. Okay? And at the same time here we have speed as V equal D over T.
Yes.
Some students can maybe have some disturbed here about V. V here without arrow is called speed. But at the same time we have velocity. What is meant by velocity? Velocity is called displacement. Displacement covered. Covered through time
Unit.
Unit.
Yes.
Through time, unit. So we have a difference between distance and displacement as we talk about here distance, and here we talk about displacement as the mathematical relation between velocity, displacement, and time. Velocity, as we write like that, we talk about velocity. V with arrow, because V with arrow, here we identify by direction beside the magnitude. So we talk about what here? We talk about the velocity. As we see here, V with arrow is velocity as equal displacement. D with arrow here معناها displacement over time, because here we have difference between displacement and distance to identify the main difference between speed and velocity. As we want to calculate from this problem, as you see, a body moves from point A northward. طبعا we are now in third prep، احنا في ثالثه اعدادي، فعارفين north يعني طالع لفوق شمالا. To be covers 40 meters in 5 seconds. Then moves eastward، اتحرك شرقا، covers أو covering 60 meters in 3 seconds. To C then moves to D southward جنوبا، covers 40 meters in 2 seconds. Calculate distance, displacement, speed, and velocity. How come? Here in this case we must draw as يعني as draft here، يعني مش لازم ارسمها by ruler بس just ان انا in this case just ان انا use like that northward, eastward, southward as you see here. And we have numbers. We have A to B 40 meter in 5 seconds. 40 meters in 5 seconds. يبقى هنا 40 meters 5 seconds. A to B. Then moves to what? From B to C 60 meters.
60 meter in
3 seconds.
Yes.
يبقى 60 meters in 3 seconds.
Yes.
To C. Then from C to D southward, how many? 40 meters in how many?
In 2 seconds.
40 meters in 2 seconds.
Yes.
So here we need to calculate what? Number one, we need to calculate distance, and we know distance is the actual length between the starting point and the ending point. So the actual length here المسافة الواقعية اللي هو مشيها as we see here A, B, C, then D. So the actual length in this case equal what? Equal 40 plus 60 plus 40 equal how many?
150.
Equal 140 meters. So we talk about
150. 50.
40 meter, 60 meter, 40 meter, 140.
50 plus 60 plus 40.
40, 40, 40. 40, 60, 40. Okay?
Yes,
so
yes.
here, so we have 140 meters, and if we want to calculate the displacement, and we know displacement is the shortest straight line، هي أقصر مسافة ما بين starting point and ending point، ما بين نقطة البداية ونقطة النهاية. So here how can we calculate? We know these two lines here are parallel and equal. So as we studied in geometry, so these two
60 meters.
lines are parallel, so they are equal. And here we have displacement, as Mr. Muhammad said, displacement in this case equal how many? Equal 60 meter AD. يعني أنا identify by what? By magnitude and by direction. In the same case, we need to calculate what? We need to calculate the speed, as we studied before.
Yes. Average speed or speed?
Average speed or speed.
Speed
if you
from
can
each point to the
other, yes.
other one.
So here we have V equal D over T. In this case, we have D total distance over total time. Total distance equal how many? 140. Over total time, here we have 5 seconds. Here we have 3 seconds, 8 seconds. So here we have 10 seconds. 140 over 10 equal how many? Equal 1, equal 14. How many? Meter per second. Without any other information or data. And if we want to calculate, in this case, velocity, v, as we have displacement over time, so we have what? 140? No, we have 60. displacement كام? 60 over لازم التايم هو. So over 10. So how many? Equals 6 meter per second. How can we see now? We can watch the big difference between speed and velocity. We have a big difference between distance and displacement according to their values and their definitions.
Yes, mister, it is good examples that explain the difference between speed and velocity and between distance and displacement.
And according to all physical quantities as a scalar and a vector.
Yes.
If we have here a video if you want to
yes,
okay.
it is very important.
Yes. So here we have a little video to explain the main difference between vector and scalar physical quantities as we see here on the monitor. This video here scalar and vector physical quantity. الفيديو اللي هو قدامنا هنا بيتعرض physical quantity as we say as mass as 100 or 800 grams as you see here, and here we have temperature, time, all physical quantities as a scalar because they identify by magnitude only. We need to say, as if we talk about temperature, 30 Celsius, درجة حرارة 30 درجة مثلا مئوية. Physical quantity, other vector physical quantity, as we talk about displacement, velocity, force, momentum, acceleration. All these physical quantities, you will study them again in first, secondary in physics. So these quantities are or identified by magnitude and direction. يعني باخدها بالقيمة والاتجاه. زي ما احنا شايفين هنا قدامنا. As we talk about vector physical quantity, we have to know magnitude and direction. زي ما انتم شايفين لازم احدد force مثلا 3 نيوتن 7 نيوتن but with direction. In what? From left to right, from up to down, according to the points from starting point to and ending point. So now, dear students, we know how can we differentiate between vector and the scalar physical quantities according to the زي ما احنا عارفين magnitude and the direction. We have another video to differentiate between velocity and speed. As we you see here in this video, as we championships in athletics أو ألعاب القوى زي ما احنا شايفين. As we talk about speed of the runners in this race في السبق ده, we talk about what here? We talk about speed. Speed is distance covered through time unit, but yes, at the same time we have another concept here as you see here, speed versus velocity. السرعة ضد السرعة الاتجاهية زي ما بيسموها بالعربي. Distance over time is we talk about speed, and velocity displacement over time if we talk about velocity. And each one of them, as you see here in the stadium, the runner will move from this point till they reach this point. So here we talk about the distance here as the actual length between the starting point here and the ending point here. But at the same time, if we want to talk about displacement between the starting point and ending point, according to this is the starting point and this point is the ending point, so the displacement is the shortest straight line between the starting point and the ending point. So now we can differentiate between distance, displacement. So now we can differentiate also between displacement and distance, speed and velocity. So now, dear students, I think we can remember what how can differentiate between
know very well the difference between displacement and distance and speed and velocity.
Yes.
By the examples, it is clear for our students to understand the differentiate between these items. Mr. Muhammad, I want to tell you that there is a very, very important item in this unit
Yes.
when we talk about relative speed.
Yes, relative
Because in these items exact, there are more problems are given for our students to solve them.
As we talk about the relative speed here, we talk about the speed of two bodies.
Yes.
Yes.
Or the moving body is related to
Another
observer.
body.
Yes.
Or our observer. Yes.
شخص مراقب يعني.
صح.
هنا بس احنا عايزين نقول فيه some states أو different states when we can calculate the relative speed.
تمام.
If the observer
Yes, Mr. Yes. I'm
yes
with you.
stand and notice a moving car, there is a speed.
Yes.
And the relative speed here is equal the actual speed.
Yes.
So
in this case, yes.
if we are asked about relative speed in case of the observer is stand and the car is move
Yes,
with
Mr.
certain speed, so the relative speed equals the actual speed.
Yes.
If the car move by 80 kilometers per hours.
Yes.
So here the relative speed equal what? Equal 80.
Yes.
But if I want to illustrate or explain these points by drawing here or here. If
I
the
think,
body move,
I think we can mention the difference between or the main concept of displacement or relative speed. Yes, by a little video here. In the monitor, if we set in train قاعدين في قطر مثلا, now we are at rest or
Yes.
at motion at rest. But at the same time our relative speed of our speed as the speed of monitor speed of train. In this case we are in motion.
Yes.
So we talk about speed, but I think the time now is run. Our time is run. Yes.
yes, yes,
Yes.
but we will explain or be concentrated about the point of the moving car related to the observer. Time passes quickly, Mr.
Yes.
Muhammad.
Yes, Mr.
My dear students, at end, I and Mr. Muhammad thank you very well and promise you to meet in the next episode. Goodbye.
Goodbye.